Alright, so what even is a coin pusher? There's plenty of games that use coins or tokens, but typically these games involve some system where you drop coins in and the machine is trying to push them off the ledge. It's a pretty old concept dating back to 1964, but depending on who you ask, it's going to invoke different images. Every region is going to have a different style for how the coin pushing operates. Looking at it from a primarily North American lens, these things are scrutinized differently by the eyes of the law. I mean, just go look at this visual for coin pusher legality by state. It's illegal to operate them in more than half of the states. If you read more about this visual from the World Population Review, they're discussing this primarily in the sense of casinos. But it does mention them in arcades as well. My favorite quote from this website is, "It is still possible to see coin pushers in an arcade in certain situations. You should be careful if you decide to play one of these games." Okay then, this really isn't doing the redemption arcades any favors. It really helps the argument that these places are kiddie casinos. And who can blame them? Especially when you see them operating coin pushers with names like Casino Lights. But I will say, redemption arcades might as well be kiddie casinos, if you go in playing the games blind. So if they're banned in several places, why are we still seeing them? My best guess would be that these games use some legal jargon and are not technically coin pushers. Here's an example. Check out this official listing for the game Angry Birds Coin Crash. It does look like a coin pusher, but nah. This is a coin tower crashing game. Alternative sellers don't seem to mention any coin pushing either. So this video is coming off pretty negative right off the bat. I will say the opinion I'm finding on these kinds of games are very mixed. You guys either love them or hate them. If you had asked me about coin pushers several years ago, I would have said rigged, D tier, the end. After working on this video, my attitude has changed quite a bit with these games. The answer isn't so black and white. It's not like most wheel games. Those are just slot machines for the casuals. With coin pushers, there's a lot more variance. How good or bad they are entirely depends on the game. There is no shortage of examples to show for these kinds of games. Some don't even necessarily have the traditional pushers, but the typical coin pusher design is going to look like this. It's usually going to have a trapezoidal shape and an upper floor to play your coins, which would then start knocking the coins to your bottom layer. Pay attention to how all the coins are bottlenecked at the edge. You may notice the coins are even slanted here. Most coin pushers have this ledge that just stalls the coins and other crap on the board. I personally believe a lot of coin pushers generally have so many weird gimmicks that they're no longer a traditional coin pusher. I've hand-selected 3 examples that all have very different gameplay styles. So let's take a look. Let's start with the Monopoly coin pusher, and specifically this older 2-player version from Ice and Crompton's. The Monopoly IP has many different redemption arcade games. Even this old coin pusher has different models. I'm not sure when this game was released, even the manual I found doesn't say. The closest thing I can find that is loosely related to a release date is this 2007 copyright from a promo brochure for an alternative version of this game. Ice's website doesn't list any of the Monopoly coin pushers, but they do have some unavailable parts we can look at. We can try to pull some info out of the reseller listings. These guys aren't shy to call this one a coin pusher. But my favorite quote is on the MNP Amusements website where they say that sliding coin chutes allow this game to conform in many US jurisdictions. Well then, that seems like a good sign when they gotta go out of their way to tell you, hey, I'm a legally compliant game. Alright, so simply put, you drop a coin or token or whatever down this hole. I'm really not used to these old coin pushers. It took me a few plays until I realized that you can move this sliding coin chute to aim where you drop the coin. If you time your drop to pass one of the hat or car lights, it will stay on. If you manage to get a coin to light the final one, you get to do what this screen calls the start feature, whatever that means. There absolutely is a timing to this. When there's several lights open on the board, I was finding the correct timing is to drop the coin when the rotating light is roughly 4 lights away. When you're down to just 1 light left, you'll need to time your coin based on the delay between the light flicker and your coin drop. So all this hard work is for a start feature. This is a very unorthodox way of saying you get to play an autopilot version of Monopoly. Yeah, you get to move around the board and collect tickets based on where you land. I'd be curious to learn more about how this start feature works. I was told by the arcade operator that this feature is random, but I'm not fully convinced since I landed on a clean number like 500 for the jackpot. The manual doesn't say anything about payouts for the start feature, but it does confirm that you get tickets for landing on properties and that it ends when you go to jail. Oh, and I almost forgot, there's coins getting pushed here. Before we give this game a placement, you may have noticed that some of the light bulbs on this machine are dead. Basically, any arcade game is going to experience natural wear and tear over time. It's going to be more prevalent when we're talking about games as old as these ones. Anyone who's working to maintain older games like these, I have nothing but respect for you and your efforts with trying to keep these older pieces of arcade history alive. You guys are much cooler than the person who thought it was okay to get 5 Big Bass wheels. Anyways, let's grade this game. This really isn't a coin pusher. It's more like one of those old physics token timing games. And for that reason, I honestly think this one can be pretty good. The only thing I'm not fully certain on is the amount earned from the start feature. If it's a consistent amount, then I think this is a pretty decent rotational payout game. Hypothetically, if it's truly random, there's a chance you can just go to jail on the first roll. That would be really funny, but that would also mean the jackpot is basically a wheel game. Obviously, this is still way better than a traditional wheel game. I'm going to put this one somewhere in B tier, with a small asterisk here. If the start feature is a consistent amount of some sort, or a guaranteed floor and ceiling of tickets you could earn, then I could see a world where this game honestly deserves A tier, since the start feature would be treated like a typical rotational payout game. I'll play around with this one more and maybe update the placement in the future. I'll save that for the day we do the hotly requested Monopoly arcade games video. Also, we're very coddled with the digital ticket systems. Physical tickets do give me dopamine, but you gotta wait quite some time to collect these. Alright, so for game 2, we've got Flintstones Quarry Quest.
Flintstones?
Usually I'm more pragmatic with my reviews of these games, but I'll be going more off my gut feelings with this one. And that is because this is the first time I was not able to find a manual for the game. I'm going to be discussing my experiences with this game and how I believe it works. Feel free to correct me in the comments. We don't have the manual, but we do have promo material. This one claims it debuted in spring of 18, so I'm gonna go with that. Depending on who you're buying this game from, they choose their wording on what kind of game this is very carefully. That said, the official manufacturer for this game just flat out calls it a coin pusher. But check out the branding strategy on another seller, this one being Primetime Amusements. Over here, this isn't a coin pusher, no. This is a marbles and plastic chips pusher. This early promo material does show it pushing marbles and chips, but the version I'll be playing on is using tokens. I don't think I've ever seen a marbles version of this game in person. And yes, I'm aware that there are several popular marble pushing games. I'll leave it up to you to decide whether the choice to replace these with marbles is to make the game more fun or to be more legally distinct. But for this game, I'm just going to call them stones. After all, these are the
Flintstones?
So this game has a few gimmicks that run in parallel with the stone pushing. Like most of these kinds of games, you get tickets for hitting the tokens off the ledge. But with this game, you are able to aim the stone slide, so it's easy to time it with the pushing motion of the game. Since I don't have the manual, I'm going to be vague with how many tickets any of these features pay. But moving on. There's also these character chips that have unique values for tickets. Hang on, you're telling me that the Flintstones brought their pet dinosaur, but left their kids at home. Anyways, there's this little LED wheel thing on the side with a minor jackpot. It has this red dot trail, and if you get it to land on the stop section, you win the minor jackpot. I'm assuming that as the jackpot goes up, the length of this red dot trail also goes up, to try and make someone win. Assuming I counted this correctly, there are 60 spots the red light can land on. I believe what is making this red light traverse the board is when you get one of these specific character stones to fall off the ledge. It seems like this is based on the value of the character chip you knocked off. Watch this play here. We got the Dino, Betty, and Fred stones to fall off. Dino's worth 5, so it moved 5 positions forward. It counted the Betty stone second, so it then moved 10 forward. And finally it counted Fred, which moved it 100 forward. The amount for this bonus seems to be incrementing every time our red dot does a lap around the circle. My machine here has it adding 10 for every rotation. Now let's take a look at the major jackpot up here. It's amusing because the left side refers to it as Fred's Bowling Super Bonus, while the right side calls it the Super Quarry Bonus. We are playing on the 2-player version of this game, and there does exist a 6-sided version. How does the 6-player one name the sides? I found this screenshot with one other name for the jackpot. I'm wondering if it loops these or uses 6 different names. Okay, so these names don't really matter. Let's just discuss how it works. So the things that let you play for the major jackpot are these orange pieces here. The official website refers to them as special clamshells. So if you knock one of these off the ledge, you get to play what is essentially a game of Cyclone. Just time the stop button on the bonus light. Since we can't see the manual, I'm not sure how rigged this is. I know this is sometimes doable. I frequently see the value go crazy high, up above 2,000 or so, and then on another day it resets back to triple digits. Whether I have skill issues or I'm playing it outside of a potential payout window, I'm not fully sure. With Cyclone or the other games similar to it, there's usually a stigma around it being rigged and needing to play at the correct time. So I'm not fully certain on how honest this one is. I will say, the timing on this game feels very fishy. When I'm stopping it around the jackpot, there's a short but noticeable delay. But when I intentionally press the button early to try and account for the delay, my input stops on a dime. I'm going to assume there's a payout window and move on. Personally, I would ignore trying to play just for the tickets on the character chips. Unless one play could get enough to make your tickets worthwhile. I think the value from this game comes with combining tickets from the stones with the minor jackpot. Some character chip tickets and the minor jackpots are individually pretty low, but together they can make for a decent return. I feel like you just need to time your plays correctly. See what's on the board and count if the character chips you knock off will be enough to land your red light on the stop section. To conclude this one, I feel like it's an okay B tier, but much lower than the Monopoly game. I think in the right circumstances, you can throw a play at it and it can be viable for tickets, but it's not reliable enough to go any higher on my list. And again, when there's multiple different tiers of jackpots, that's usually a good excuse to price the game higher. This is probably the most popular inclusion. Here we've got the SpongeBob Pineapple Arcade. Again, this is another game that avoids including Coin Pusher in the title. In fact, the leading sentence on the official website introduces it as a tokens and cards pusher. With that in mind, you can assume the gimmick is that you gotta collect all these cards. Payout amounts vary by arcade, but typically with these kinds of games, individual cards can be cashed in for some tickets. Completing the entire set will net you a mega jackpot. When you have all the cards, you'll need to cash them in somewhere. This is usually the checkout counter at your prize room. If your arcade is extra bougie, they might even have this Andamiro redeem machine that can issue you tickets for the cards. Never have I seen one of these in person. The basic gameplay loop is that you drop coins down the fun slide, and you're trying to time it with the carts on the Ferris wheel. The LEDs are looping through all the bonuses on this wheel, so you get the bonus that's timed with the light that's flashing when the token successfully goes through. There's quite a few bonuses here. All these red token spots, these ones will drop extra tokens from the bonus tokens outshoot based on the number you got. Now the blue bonus token, this one lets you roll for a higher bonus token output on the upper LED here. Depending on your arcade configuration and confirmed by the manual, an arcade can hard set this output value. So if you're playing on a machine like this one that has it hard set to 4, I think it's really scummy to still have this LED value range here that gives an illusion of a potential higher output. The card drop one is pretty self-explanatory, but the bonus plays one, this adds 2 extra plays. Since the game eats 1 play to cash in the 2 extra plays, you're only really getting 1 free play out of it. Since our primary goal is to collect the cards, the coin placement is really important here. The best thing we can do here is to try and time it so that these dispensers shoot when the tokens can land on the floor when the pusher is pulling back. If not then, the next best option is to get it to land on the top deck when it's pushing forward. The worst case scenario is when your tokens just land on top of the pile. This won't do much to contribute to pushing anything off the ledge. Since we can't place coins in the exact position we want, it can become tedious to try and target specific cards on the board, especially if those cards are stuck in either corner. You're going to have the best luck going for the cards closer to the center. Your best way of maximizing value out of this game is going to be from only shooting a coin when it lines up with a bonus you want. This can get really boring really fast. So typically I find most of us are just going to go Oonga Boonga and just play for a rhythm that has your coins getting into the Ferris wheel. On this configuration, I'm finding that the timing to get a coin in is to have the Ferris wheel cart just start touching the silver lip here. But your mileage is going to vary on this, because depending on the arcade, the speed of the Ferris wheel can be different. So be very skeptical about any advice on timing these things, as we've got 5 different speeds to work with depending on what the arcade's configuration is set to. If you want to try and get fancy, you can also trickshot your tokens off the Ferris wheel if you're trying to target a specific area of the board, but this doesn't feel very consistent to me. To continue the discussion on maximizing your value, check this out. You can get more plays by adding additional buy-ins at the same time. Why is an arcade game trying to upsell me? What, am I at Costco now? Okay, I know it's normal for a lot of these games to do upselling, and I do understand this is a beneficial feature if you think one play is not enough to secure an important card. But honestly, I think the most important timing for this game is choosing when to play. You can burn a lot of money just sitting at this machine throwing tokens at it. So your best bet is to be a degenerate and wait around for the casuals to burn money on this thing, and then swoop in to play on a more favorable board. Regarding ticket viability, there is a lot of hypothetical potential with games like these. The value you can get from one play to another can be very inconsistent. So it's beneficial for you to wait and play when you can get multiple card drops in one go, or if you're trying to complete a set by targeting just one specific card. You're really going to need to do the math with these card collecting coin pushers. This pretty much extends to just about any game, but you'll need to go figure out how much it costs to play at your arcade and see if the jackpot amount is worth it. With a lot of these card collecting games, the arcade generally will have multiple copies, so you'll always have the option to check different boards and see if there are any desirable ones to play on. The longer you play these kinds of games, the more apparent it's going to become that there's some sort of rare card in the collection. Typically, you'll get multiple duplicates before seeing one copy of a specific rare card. If you're not sure what the rare card is for any of these games, try Googling it. Arcades can update the card collection. There is a chance the information you find can be outdated. But for what is relevant to this current video, I believe Gary the Snail is the rare card. This is confirmed by Andamiro themselves. Can we also talk about how janky this game is? Like, look at the Ferris wheel carts and how most of them have coins stuck on them. And check out this time where it dispensed me a token along with the card I dropped. And the wildest one of all, when a Gary card got stuck on the sorting conveyor belt. We had to throw an extra play at this game to send some extra tokens down to free Gary. Personally, I think this game has a lot of potential. It has a deceptive amount of depth with the timings on the bonus wheel and the best practices for layering your tokens on the board. I think it's pretty strong, but it's only good if you're playing when you can win multiple cards in one go, or to get a rare card that's on the edge. But it's not a perfect game. To make it viable, you're going to need to rely on the casual arcade goers to fill the board with cards and push them closer to the edge. You can influence the outcome of a coin pusher game, but it's always deceptive how close you really are to knocking something off. Especially in a game where it's very difficult to aim your coins, and the jankiness can add some hidden costs as well. But I will say, this is definitely a higher one. I'm going to say lower end of A. I personally feel like you'll get more value out of this one the less you play it. It's going to reward the patient players who don't get baited into chaining plays and are able to recognize how many plays are needed at what time. The tickets for tokens knocked off is usually chump change, but playing passively to complete a set and having the option to cash in your duplicates feels pretty strong. Again, this is just my personal opinion. I'm not like the de facto source of truth for all redemption games on this planet. Every arcade can configure these games differently. I'm sure there are other viable playstyles for any of these coin pushers. In this video, I intentionally picked 3 different styles of coin pushers. The purpose of this video was to focus on the varying archetypes of a coin pusher. With the exception of the SpongeBob game, I didn't include many popular ones in this video. And that is because the popular ones probably deserve a video for themselves. And this includes every other coin pusher that made a brief appearance in this video. I'll try to cover the ones that have a higher volume of requests, but only if I can find them. And if they work. One final nice thing I can say about all of these coin pushers is that I appreciate that you can look at the board and decide if it's worth playing. You don't need to face check the game with blind plays seeing if it's ready to pay out. Oh, and also, don't try to shake these things. A good number of these coin pushers are rigged with some sort of tilt alarm. But this is a really good option if you're trying to speedrun getting banned from your local arcade. Honestly, we need to end this video with one final word of warning. You should be careful if you decide to play one of these games. Most of these coin pushing games are viable options for farming tickets at a redemption arcade, but only for those with good self-restraint. These things are addictive, and they definitely make a killing preying on people with a poor grasp of the sunk cost fallacy. Come on, man, just one more play! I can quit whenever I want!